Hey everyone, it's Brett from Hope to Prosper, and I'm here in the Ancient Bristlecone Pine Forest. These are the oldest trees in the world right here. Some of these are 4,000 years old. Anyways, I'm here hiking with Millie, enjoying myself, and man, it's a beautiful hike up here, and I'm just bringing you along with me. I hope you enjoy this. Okay, thanks for coming along. We stayed in the Bristlecone Motel in Big Pine, California, which is not far from the turnoff to the pine forest, and it was fun. We had a good time. Was really put us in the mood for visiting the forest, staying in this little hotel. And Big Pine's a neat little town. We had a good time there. It's just a little speck on the highway, but the people were nice, and it was a great place to stay. We also liked this hotel. It was basically, it was kind of like a little cabin inside, and it was dog friendly. Millie wasn't supposed to be up on the bed, so Maria put down some sheets. But it was dog friendly, and it was kind of spacious. We had a nice table, and it was kind of like a little cabin inside. It was really rustic and fun. So we liked this hotel. Highly recommend it. It was affordable and it was fun. And also it kind of put us in the mood for visiting the Bristlecone Forest. So down the highway, there's a turnoff right here at Highway 168. There's no one in that little, almost like a kiosk, but it was fun. That's the turnoff, so you don't miss it. And then we drove on up. It's 24 miles to the visitor center from the highway, from Big Pine. And along the way, this is the Sierra View Overlook. So we passed, on the 24 miles up, we passed a picnic area, a campground, and then this overlook. And the Sierra View Overlook, this is awesome. You just have to come here. It's so cool. You can see the Sierra Mountains over there. You're in the White Mountains at almost 10,000 feet, and then you're looking across at the Sierras that are at like 14,000 feet. And these displays show you what peaks you're looking at. And so on one side there's the Sierras, and then on the other side are the Inyo Mountains. And it's just a cool little overlook on the way up. It's about, I would say, about 4 or 5 miles from the visitor center. And I recommend you stop in here and just take in the scenery. So it was fun. So next, I stopped into the visitor center to pay our fee and hopefully buy a magnet, which they didn't have. But it was cool. It's only $3 per person or $6 for a carload, which is a deal. But I used my America the Beautiful pass, so I got in for free. And the ranger was really cool. He talked to me about the hikes that are available and set me off on my way. So basically, there are two areas, or what they call groves, in the Bristlecone Pine Forest. The grove that's around the visitor center is called the Shulman Grove, and that's named after Edmund Shulman. And then if you keep going past the visitor center, there's a 13-mile dirt road, and that goes up to the Patriarch Grove. And the Patriarch Grove is at 11,000 feet. The Shulman Grove is at about 10,000 feet. So you're up there. We passed on taking the 13-mile dirt road, and we didn't have a lot of time to begin with, so we just stayed around the visitor center and we went to Shulman Grove. Now, there's 3 hikes available. Around the Patriarch Grove, there is the Patriarch hike, and you can see the Patriarch tree, which is the largest bristlecone pine. But around the visitor center in the Shulman Grove, there are 2 hikes. There's the Discovery hike, the Discovery Trail, which is about a mile long, and that's around the visitor center. It's for people who don't want to hike a long way. And then the other hike is called the Forest Walk Trail, and that's the one I took that you're seeing right now. The Forest Walk Trail, it's about it's about 4 miles, and keep in mind this is at 10,000 feet, so it was, I wouldn't call it strenuous, but it wasn't easy. It was a good long hike, and it was fantastic. The weather was perfect. As you could see, it's a little narrow, and there's definitely a drop off on the side. So if you're scared of heights, or if you you're not good at altitude, this probably wouldn't be the hike for you. But man, I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. My wife didn't do well on the altitude, so she skipped the hike at the Discovery Center and then let me and Millie go off on this forest walk hike. And what we wanted to do on the forest walk hike, or what I wanted to do, I wanted to find the mythical Methuselah tree. There's a tree that's it's about 4,900 years old. So this tree's been around since it germinated around 2835 BC. So this tree is almost 5,000 years old. And I searched high and low for it, but I didn't seem to get a picture of it. The rangers won't tell you where it's at because they're afraid somebody's going to, they're afraid somebody might, vandalize it or something of that sort. So they'll just tell you the general area it's in. And I must have walked past it and not gotten a picture of it. I sure did see a lot of other old trees, but I didn't get to see and film Methuselah. But from what I understand, Methuselah isn't the oldest tree. There's allegedly another tree that's just over 5,000 years old. And the rangers haven't named it. They won't tell you where it's at. And from what they say, they claim that the ranger who discovered it died in 2013, so no one knows where it's at. But in reality, they probably know where it's at, and they just won't tell anyone because they don't want somebody to walk up on it or take some bark or something crazy like that. So there is an actual tree that's over 5,000 years old in this grove. And the thing that's neat about the Shulman Grove, there are ancient bristlecone pines in a number of areas. Obviously the biggest concentration is right here in California in the White Mountains in the Bristlecone Pine Forest. But there are also bristlecone pines in the Great Basin National Park in Nevada. And there are bristlecone pines in areas of Utah, New Mexico, and Colorado, between 9,000 and 11,000 feet. So these pine trees only grow at very high altitude in very dry conditions where basically nothing else can survive. And so these trees are very, very rare, and they're a treasure. To think about a tree that's 5,000 years old and it's been around since 3000 BC is pretty mind-boggling. And the trees that are old and gnarled and look like they're dead, they're actually still alive, and those are the oldest trees. The ones with a lot of foliage on them, those are, basically like juvenile trees. Not that they're young, but they're not as old as these old gnarled ones. And one really cool thing about this hike is, here's a nice little bench you can sit and look at all the trees in the forest. There's two really neat things about this hike that I really loved. The first is, look at the view of the mountains. Like the Sierra view, you could see the Sierras off in the distance, and so the mountainscape was really pretty. The second thing is, you're really close to these trees. I mean, you're walking, you don't want to touch them or disturb them or anything, but you're literally like feet from these thousands of year old trees. It's not like they're, if you go to national park, they have everything fenced off and, you can't get near it. You could take a picture from a ways away, but you could walk right next to these trees and you're literally just walking next to them. And, and it's peaceful too. Another thing I loved about this hike was I ran into a couple people. I ran into a couple, and I ran into 3 other individuals on the whole 4-mile trek. So unlike a national park, it's not packed with people. You walk away from the visitor center, and you might see a person or two every mile. And so it was very peaceful. It was serene. And I took my time. I took plenty of time to walk amongst the trees and take my time, taking pictures and things of that sort. And so it wasn't rushed. And I was also happy that I was able to take my dog along, that it was a dog-friendly hike. I've been going to a lot of national parks, and Millie's not allowed. But in this particular forest, she was allowed, and she had a great time hiking with me. And so those are some of the things I really loved about this hike and this, this place. It's a sacred place. It's historic. It's natural. Like I said, it's precious. And just to be able to walk up for $6 and just walk amongst these 4,000 and 5,000 year old trees, man, it's a treat. It's something I highly recommend to everybody. So here are some tips for visiting. The trail's relatively smooth, and there's some small obstacles and some steps and things of that sort, but there's no scrambles or anything that's difficult to crawl over. As I said earlier, the edge drops off and the trail's relatively narrow. But besides that, it has good footing, and I would consider it accessible for a lot of people. And then there are some switchbacks, and there's about 800 feet of elevation gain up and down on this grove. So there's some work involved in taking this hike, but I wouldn't call it strenuous. I would call it more like moderate. So make sure you have plenty of gas, water, and food before you leave Big Pine. There's nothing on the way up this 24-mile road from the city, so you want to have everything when you leave. What we did was we went to the gas station next to the motel. They had a great selection of sandwiches. We got some breakfast sandwiches and some lunch sandwiches, and we brought those along up the hill. And what we did was we stopped on the way back down in the picnic area, which was, 4,000 or 5,000 feet below, and had lunch. It was really nice. So, and keep in mind the forest is seasonal. This place just closes and as soon as it snows, and then it doesn't open again until spring. So make sure you check the weather conditions before you try and come up the hill. We tried to visit in April, but a freak snowstorm closed the road after we had left from home, and by the time we got there, it was closed. So we didn't get to go on this trip. This is my second attempt to go to the Bristlecone Pine Forest, and this time, the weather was perfect, and so we were really lucky. But, you never know. You're at 10,000 feet, and so you want to be prepared with, jackets, good shoes, inappropriate clothing. You just don't know how the weather is going to be. So even though it was perfect when we were there, I'm sure it could get cold in a big hurry. So let's wrap this up. Let's talk about the bottom line. The bottom line is I just highly recommend visiting the Bristlecone Pine Forest to anyone who loves nature, history. It was an awesome trip, and it was fun, inexpensive, and it was uncrowded. So it kind of had like a spiritual feeling, and it just provided a glimpse way back into time before we've all been around. So the largest, tallest, and oldest trees in the world are all right here in California. You have the bristlecone pines, which are the oldest. You have the giant redwoods, which are the tallest. And you have the giant sequoias, which are the largest trees in the world. So we're kind of blessed here in California. And now I've seen them all, and I'm really happy that I have. And I hope you get to come here and enjoy these beautiful bristlecone pine trees in the future. And then also, if you haven't been to Sequoia National Park or Redwoods National Park, those are other trips that I've just been on, and I highly recommend them. Okay, we made it back safe and sound. It was a nice hike. Millie did really well. I was glad I was able to take her, and she had a good time. She only grounded one person, so she was pretty good today. Anyways, great time, and thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful footage. It was a great place. I highly recommend this hike. It was at 12,000 feet, and there was some switchbacks, but it wasn't too bad. Okay, thanks for coming along. I wish you all health, happiness, and prosperity in your lives, and we will see you next week on our next big adventure. Okay,